We are back with another episode of Powerhouse Conversations. We got a good one. We're coming back with some NIL stuff. So we're gonna give some people some time to come in, talk about a little bit about what we have coming up. We have some good guests coming in. We're gonna be talking about a lot about how we can innovate in sports. Like I said, there's a lot of good companies that are building platforms and things of that nature. So we have one on right now. So we're gonna give everybody some time to get in. I'm gonna let our guests come. So let's see. There we go. Let's let Tim get in. See if we can get him added. There we go. There we go.
Oh my God.
What's good? What's good?
Good to see you, homie.
Can you hear me good?
You're good.
All right. 1 second. Let me get everything set up and we'll get started. So everybody, welcome to another episode of Powerhouse Conversations, where we bring on guests in the sports industry and we have conversations about how you can innovate in sports. Today we have on Tim Bryson. He does NIL solutions built by athletes for athletes. And I'll let him talk a little bit about himself and how, how they're, innovating in the game and just having good conversations and building platforms to help our athletes in this NIL landscape.
What's up, dog? So where you want to start today? Where can I get started, man?
Yeah, man. Start with your background and how you got into this space.
So what's up, y'all? Tim Bryson. I use he, him pronouns. And as I said, and as it was stated on the graphic, I'm a Black millennial educator. And I started saying that more recently within the last year, because I realized my Blackness, my millennial identity, my belief that education can change this world guides my mission statement to help all people identify their passion, inspire vision, and walk in purpose. I get to do that work. I'm at MOGL as the Director of Athlete Education and Compliance. But my story starts down in Tallahassee, Florida, where I was born on the campus of Florida A&M University. I ended up moving and grew up in Cincinnati. Went back down south for college and ran track at Coastal Carolina University before transferring for 1 year to the University of South Carolina at Columbia, go Cox. And at South Carolina as an AT student, like a lot of the athletes were asking, the Black athletes in particular were asking me, how to join D9, when's the next party, when's the next cookout. I'm like, y'all just want to experience like everybody else, right? Like y'all just want a student experience. So moved back to Ohio, earned my master's from Ohio State, I guess the Ohio State University now with a trademark. But my degree's in higher education and student affairs. And at Ohio State, when I was graduating, people were saying like, you got to work in athletics or you got to work in student affairs. You can't really do both. And I said, no, I'll figure it out. Figured it out and then stumbled upon the NCAA postgraduate internship experience. So I then moved to Indianapolis. I was there for 6 months before transferring, before leaving and going to the University of Maryland, College Park, where I served as the program director for athlete career development for about 3.5 years. I share that because my story is important to me, number one. But number two, I realized that my gift to my story is something I'm supposed to share with the world. As I mentioned before, I currently serve as the Director of Athlete Education and Compliance at MOGL. That's what we're doing, right? We're helping athletes identify who they are, right? Starting with identity. We're helping them be able to articulate their story both in physical and digital settings to connect with other people. And then the last piece is the community building. I think a lot of conversations about influencing our influencers how many followers you have, and this, that, and the third, but like, how do you build a community, particularly in digital environments, that yes will attract brands, but ultimately will help you and those around you walking your purpose moving forward. So that's who I am. Cannot wait to dive into this conversation, but appreciate you having me today.
No, I appreciate you coming on. I really do, because I love what MOGL is doing and how it's helping these athletes. And I think you kind of jumped into it, but I want to I'll dive into it a little quicker than I thought, because you mentioned like being black and what that blackness means, right? So one of the things that I've
Sure.
always to hear was how can NIL opportunities help the HBCU athletes? So what's your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I mean, it's not that similar, right? It's not different. I think here's my thing, my guys. Like, and I mentioned this on an IG live we had earlier this week, is that there's been a lot of celebration about the opportunities here, all athletes can take advantage, blah blah. We haven't critiqued it in a way that
Yep.
provides opportunities for us to do things differently moving forward. So it's not that the HBCU, I mean, yes, the HBCU experience is different, right? Let's not be naive about that. It's that we have not focused our attention on supporting HBCU athletes, right? We haven't focused our attention on supporting athletes from Hispanic serving institutions as well, right? We can be more critical in our approach and how we educate, but also how we connect with these individuals and these athletes and these administrators at these schools to build community and to identify, yo, like, we know your experience is different because the culture is different, because the climate is different, because the historical founding of your institution is different. What can MOGL be doing differently to best support you, right? We're not taking an all lives matter approach to NIL education. It's not going to happen. Yes, for
Right.
equal opportunity and access for all, but there's different things that we need to do and that we will do to ensure that every athlete not just feels seen and heard, but supported to take advantage of the NIL while they're in, the U.S. higher education system, but then also when they leave it as well.
No, that makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense. And so let's take a step back in how you feel about just the NIL landscape in general, and because I know you said about critiquing, right? So what's your critique for like how this first year went?
Yeah, man, I think it was good. I mean, it happened, right? And again, we can clap and celebrate, but that's the middle of the mountain, right? I think the next step is like how do we take what we learned from year one and elevate it? How do we take what we learned from year one and pare it down? But really,
Hmm.
how do we take what we learned from year one and optimize it again for the communities that have taken advantage, which is phenomenal, but also for the ones that we've missed. For me, the biggest thing, particularly working in my former institution, a lot of the feedback and critique that I had about NIL education, it has become very sterilized, right? We're going to teach you how to budget. We're going to teach you about how to read a contract. We're going to teach you about how to build a brand. I mean, again, I said this earlier in the week, but I want to be more explicit in saying it now, is that a lot of the educators in the NIL space, I quite honestly a lot of people teaching about NIL education in the NIL space do not identify as educators, number one. A lot of people, particularly within the NIL education space, are racially monolithic, particularly white individuals who may or may not have competed at the college level, right? And so when you think about connecting in a way that's culturally relevant, when you think about a way and connecting in a way that not just meets students where they are, but where they want to be and who they want to become, that's what MOGL's doing, right? That's what I'm doing in my role. Well, I think a lot of what we are thinking about moving forward is not just who's educating, but also how we educate. So again, there's been a lot of traditional, like I'm gonna come to campus and speak for 60 minutes. There's been some that we'll have a webinar once a month or once a week, which is fine. But the pandemic in the United States happened 2 years ago, right? And we had to change how we taught in the classroom as far as moving to a virtual environment. In a similar way, we're diversifying our modes of learning and communication, education, with what we have coming up here in the next few weeks, which I can touch on a little bit, but some of it, again, as I said before, it's going to be a little splash. I can't wait.
Right. And we don't want we don't want to take away from that rollout and everything. So but I definitely want to talk to you a little bit about, because you brought up a good point. Everybody learns different, and if you take that old education model to teaching them this, it'll be the same way that they're doing in the classroom, right? They're just going to
Mhm.
regurgitate information, and they're not going to actually be able to retain and implement that information. So what are, like I said, we don't want to spoil anything, but what are some of the ways in general of how you think that these athletes will best be able to implement this?
Yeah, so I'll be very candid and upfront and saying I'm still learning. I'm
Gotcha.
still learning. Like I said, just started a few weeks ago. I mean, I have an idea in my head, but this is my idea that is very limited in scope and nature, right? Like my perspective, my lived experiences, my gift will help drive, how we communicate or how, excuse me, and how we educate. But as far as what we educate, I'm asking the athlete. go on Instagram, like, yo, like, what do y'all want newsletters or you want IG updates?
Right.
You want webinars or you want a podcast, right?
Right.
Do
Right.
you want
Right.
to learn about NFTs and Web3 or do you want to learn more about like I'm asking them? So I think a lot of,
Right.
again, going back to the critique is like, we as the adults, we as the people in positions of power and influence to say, you know what, this NIL thing is happening, I'm gonna teach you this. This NIL
Right.
thing is happening, I'm gonna teach you that. And we are not asking like, yo, like, what do you want to learn about?
Right.
I'll tell you, right? You ask them, they'll give you an answer. And then it's on me to respond and address that in a way that makes sense for both parties. But it's like, yo, have we really asked them what they want? And if we
Right.
haven't, how are we really educating and teaching them in a way that not contributes to more followers or more likes or more content or more posts, but to learning? You know, all about this whole entire process is about justice, but on the other side of justice is the learning piece. And how do we teach them in a way that they learn and they take that and whatever's next for them post higher education?
Gotcha. Gotcha. And so,
Oh my God, you got me going, boy. You got me going.
I know it. I'm about to let you get in your bag and just do what you do. So, what are some of the things if you based on the little time that you've been in MOGL and everything that you've learned throughout your career, what is something that you wish that every athlete know that they knew right now going into this next year of NIL?
Good question. I would first say that we know NIL stands for name, image, and likeness, and obviously we pared it down to an acronym with 3 letters, but it's not a verb, right? Like that, NIL is like what you have, right, and what you can leverage and what you can use and what you can benefit from, but it's not like how do I do NIL? So I think a lot of the conversation around NIL activity in particular is like here's something that you can do, like this thing called NIL. And there's a lot of assumptions being made about what that means, about what that really is, about the scope in which you can really benefit from pursuing and really leveraging your name, image, and likeness, particularly at the collegiate level. So first and foremost, I want to, and again, it's something we're working on now, is really just lay the foundation in regards to like, yo, like what, like let's really talk about name, image, and likeness, right? Let's talk about its history, right? Because we can't move forward and make decisions for the future if we don't understand where it came from in the first place. Let's talk about where we were year one. Let's talk about where we are right now. Then let's talk about and co-construct together where we want to go to, where we want to be next year, or where we want to be year 5. And so right now it's a lot of learning, in particular, thinking about my experiences in higher education. I've primarily been at Research One, Division One athletic programs, which I appreciate as far as like the campus culture and whatnot. But there are other institutional types, as you mentioned before, HBCUs, D2, D3, HSIs, MSIs, like that. I want to women, single gender universities. Like I want to learn more about and committed to learning more
Right.
about, right? Religious affiliated institutions. And so that's what I'm doing now is going on a listening tour, right, on social media, but also in person, connect with different people at different schools with whom I have connections with to say like, yo, like, what's the climate right? Talk to me, right? IU's over here doing this. Our Jesuit schools over here doing that. Our D2 schools over here doing this. Like, talk to me, right? And then we'll create a comprehensive program, but it'll still be curated to the institution to address again the express needs that they want us to tackle.
Gotcha. Gotcha. What would be your message to brands that are looking to get into NIL spaces?
That's a good question. That's a really good question. I would say this is feedback actually I got from an athlete more recently was like being more direct in regards to who they want to contact, who they want to get in touch with, because I think right now it's like explain this. This is a really good question. Something I've been thinking about. You have student athlete development professionals and NIL educators on a college campus or university campus telling and teaching athletes, build your brand, right? Follow your passions, like think about your identity, think about your values. Okay. You got the brand side of like, yo, I got this much money and I want to spend this much money on X amount of athletes. And so there's a slight miss. I mean, yes, there's some link, but some slight miss. A lot of misses in regards to like, do we value and appreciate identity, value, experiences, gift, story, or we just think about the money? And
Right.
so from an athlete side, it's like my conversation with athletes now is like, yo, look, there's really 2 ways we can take this. You want to get paid, you want to build a brand. Yes, you can do both,
Right.
but like, where are you thinking? Because if it's strictly money, it's right there. If it's
Right.
brand, if you're more so brand building, long term investment, probably entrepreneurial, let's go over here. The money's gonna be there both now and in the future. And so from a brand side, it's like just being upfront in regards to like, yo, this is only about the money, or like this is helping us build our brand. yes, there are brands who are doing both, but like for me, it's like, oh, like these athletes are legit because everyone's always talking about money, 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 money. And as I
Right.
told Brandon earlier in the week, right, we critique the NCAA for the commodification of black athletes. In a similar way, these brands are doing the same thing.
Right.
Like,
Now
let's call a
you
spade a
you take
spade. Come on now.
yeah you take in the aspect of okay the NCAA was getting all the money off of them. Now you're taking these big brands and they're giving them pennies on the dollars and then they're not really paying them for their worth. So
Yeah, it's really, man,
same
you're the
concept.
top 1% that's getting the same concept, but a little different. And again, we
Yep.
celebrated it, and I'm glad we did year one. But hold on now, sister, we gotta pause the critique and get better.
Yep. Yep. No, that's definitely because like I said, well, even when you talk about it, like right, so you can either quote unquote sell out for the bag, right, or you can build your own brand where you can either monetize that brand for yourself or just set yourself up for the future to where
Or
you
do
can
I?
do whatever you want. I know I think I
Or do
saw you talk about this to where everybody's not about quote unquote the bag, right, the money. They
mm-hmm,
may want to do something in med school or may want to do something in some other field that
mm-hmm,
allows them to build their brand and get noticed for
mm-hmm,
that. They're
mm-hmm,
up for what they like to do. So
mm-hmm.
talk a little bit about that.
What's up, Caitlin Slattery? Shout out to Notre Dame, yo. Saw Caitlin just jumped on MOGL intern this summer, but yeah. So for me, like the part about NIL that really intrigued me the most is that like we do that applying to jobs, applying to grad school without really thinking about again NIL, right? We just call it like, oh, you gotta have a brand or you gotta network. You gotta. It's not who you know, it's what you know, or not what you know, it's who you know. But then who knows? Like we're doing that the entire time that we're pursuing our careers. And so for me, the dope part about it was like, yo, like now you can not just get paid by doing it, but then but also be more explicit in what you're doing. So for example, when I was at Maryland, I'm like, yo, like you don't gotta. But yeah, if you don't want to benefit from NIL, which I think that's another assumption that's made in the college sports space right now, is that every single athlete wants to benefit or wants to monetize their brand, which is not true, like at all. You don't have to. But here's what you can do, right? I'm gonna need you to start posting on LinkedIn once a month, talking about what you're doing within sport in your classes, right? Grad schools are on LinkedIn, employers are on LinkedIn, alum are on LinkedIn and want to help. And I think LinkedIn is an underutilized platform with over 800 million users that college athletics, really college athletes, need to be on and need to be more active on. And so it's like, yo, like thinking about the platforms you're already on. Like, if you want your Instagram to be only fun, let it do that. But like, there are other platforms that are legit, uniquely designed and created for you to connect with other people, and you can leverage your name, image, and likeness in a way on those platforms that will lead itself to full time employment, grad school, professional school, whatever the case might be. But I think for me, it's like, yo, like I've seen employers eat that up on LinkedIn, right? We've seen alums like eat that. I just passed my like J.R. Smith, right? All the
Right.
respect, love J.R. Smith. I love got us a championship in Cleveland, but it's like we like seeing that. We like
Right.
seeing that. We like seeing you outside of your sport. You don't have to just post on Instagram or Twitter or whatever platform to do that. There's other platforms with a different audience with a lot
Right.
of this and a lot of this that can help to get you where you want to go. So
Right.
just being creative in that mindset and saying like, yo, like you can build a brand and you can still eat off of it. Years after you're done playing.
I think that's the key word, right? Creativity. Being able to find creative ways to monetize, or like you said, monetize or leverage your brand, right? Because I think
Mm-hmm.
it's not necessarily all about monetizing; it's about leverage.
Exactly.
That's a big thing that
Exactly.
being pushed is leveraging because
Mm-hmm.
everybody's not going to be able to quote unquote monetize their brand. If they leverage their brand to do other things, then that's going to be the win because a win is a win.
Listen, bro, you're exactly right. And I gotta tell people, I have a beer page, so I do some partnerships and stuff now. And I remember when I was launched it. Shout out to Nick Mutebi. He's at the NBA right now, but he's the one who encouraged me to start my beer page. And I said, no one's gonna look at pictures or like pictures of me posting beer. Like hell, they did. 3 years later, bro, I got another beer coming out this Sunday. But when I first launched the page, I said, yo, the only reason I'm launching this page is because at some point, right, if it gets big enough, I build a great community to support me in this process. The only thing I care about is just not paying for beer anymore. That's all I care about, right?
Right.
If I don't pay for any beer and all I gotta do is post a picture, then I'm good, right? That's NIL. But we see the cars and everything else. It's like, yo, like build your community. What are you passionate about? Build your community, connect with those brands or create your own, and you can start again leveraging. Boom, boom,
Yep.
boom, boom. But
Yep.
again, going back to my part about education, bro, NIL education has primarily been racially monolithic. there's a different hustle, different skill, different mindset when it comes to being entrepreneurial in this space. I've had to do that. I grew up
No,
like this. Like, it's not. Now I got to teach it. I got this.
right.
This is like fight or flight, bro. Right? Survive in advance. Like, this all I know.
Because like you said, like everybody's not going to get that deal, so you have to be creative to
Come
find
on.
those different ways to like you said, leverage the brand. Because even I think you brought up a good point, because all these kids, they like something, right? So social media is about communicating and connecting with people who are like-minded, right? So build a community around the things that you like, and now you can do those things that you like for free, or you can you can partner with some of the brands that you like for free, because now it's really like advantageous to do.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah, we on the same page.
Yep. So the other thing that I want to say is, like you said, the critique, right? So what's the biggest gap in NIL that needs to be filled from the university's perspective? Like, because I know you're with compliance, right? So what's
Yeah.
that gap that needs to be filled?
Honestly, dog, it's international athletes, international college athletes, and so international athletes are on an F1 visa, F1 student visa, and I'm not going to go in depth on what that means right now, other than the fact that students on an F1 visa in the United States, so any non-U.S. Citizen studying on an F1 cannot monetize their name, image, or likeness. Whether you're an athlete, whether you're in a band, choir, whatever the case might be, like you can't start a business in the U.S., which is obviously federal law that the NCAA alone cannot change or modify.
Right.
So for me, I think the biggest miss in NIL period is that we've been talking about this in some way, shape, or form for decades. We as a college sport industry put legislation in place, right? Obviously, states put their own legislation in place. It went live on July 1 last year, 2021, and you're telling me no one in the room thought about this.
Right.
Like no one in the room was like, wait a minute, like there's a whole dig. No one. And so yes, college athletes can benefit from NIL, from monetizing their name, image, or likeness. But that state is incomplete. U.S. born or non F1 college athletes can benefit. College athletes on the F1 visa cannot. That's over 20,000 athletes from across this globe, and it's a miss. Their experience is now different. And I'm not talking about playing time and whatnot, but just talking about the skills that we're teaching our American athletes about, again, the budgeting, the financial, reading contract, blah, blah, blah. They can't do that in the same way in the United States. Yes, there's been conversation about, oh, they can monetize their NIL back home, wherever home is, blah. And that might be fair, that might all be cool and true. However, the NCAA exists in the United States, right?
Right.
Like their brand is this in the US. Can
Right.
it be taught in other countries? Sure. Like we can be creative and again the whole career piece or even money back home, but like here, imagine you got to leave your country to make money off your NIL, but you can compete in
Right.
the US. That don't make no sense.
Right.
So for me, that's the biggest miss. And
Yep.
obviously, you see the shirt I'm wearing. Shout out to Honest Rags. I'm very big. I'm very not passionate. I'm very committed to ensuring that all international college athletes receive justice, not just from NIL, but from other missions on our college campuses in regards to how we support their holistic experience when they move and study U.S. higher ed.
No, because that makes sense. They are at a disadvantage because this was about making sure that it's a fair and even playing field, and then if it's
Exactly.
fair to people who are have immigrated over here and came and left their country, and they can't
Mm-hmm.
the same way that their teammate can, then that's not fair, right? So
It's
that's
not. It's not. Yep.
and make sure if y'all are in the chat, if y'all have questions, like I know we're down to about the last 5 minutes, but make sure y'all hit us up with questions. I did poll some people earlier, and I wanted to get some questions answered. But what are the taxes like? What how does that work for these students?
In regards to what?
Like if they get a NIL deal, like how do they just file taxes just like anybody else, or like what is that? What's that
Yeah.
process?
Yeah. I think $600 the threshold. Anything over that, go ahead and
So
submit. Go
yeah.
ahead and submit.
So are these are they considered 1099s or?
Yeah. Yep. 1099.
Cool.
Obviously, depending on the deal, but most of them be 1099.
Cool. Let's see. Can you speak to the NIL collectives? Like how does that work? And what's your thoughts behind that?
That's a great question too. Whoever submitted that question in, and so that's a huge point of emphasis. What is this? It's coming academic year. I guess it starts next month. And that again, we know like whether in good faith or not, what they really come down to is a recruiting advantage. And so a lot of schools, like athletic departments, coaches are
Yep.
trying to crack down and want like blanket legislation to say like either here's their cap, here's what they can and can't do, but at least providing some clarity and definition in regards to what a collective is and what they can contribute and or do, particularly in the recruiting process for prospective college athletes. I know from not I know from my own experience, it's been super interesting watching both now working at MOGL, but also my previous institutions as well. And that there are some schools who work directly with their collective. There are some schools who are in who got beef with their collective within the city or within the institution, right? There are some schools that have a collective like for different sports, and that's been an interesting dynamic to watch as well. And so it's like interesting. Okay, okay, okay. This is again to your point. This is supposed to be about justice and fairness, everything else, cool. But now you got the men's basketball team got their own collective. The women's lacrosse team got their own collective, right? Women's golf is over here saying like, well, I can't make no money, but the American. So how did like then how's the AD at that school managing relations? Like, how do you if they give money to recruiting, does that impact the money they give for major gifts to build the new stadiums and new arenas, etc. As alumni, like does the alumni letter winner club does that just go away because people are now more involved in? There's a lot going on right now, and again, I
Yep.
think the biggest thing is just like the whole is providing clarity and definition in regards to what it is and what it isn't.
That's what I was just about to ask you. So is that up to each university that they they have to, I guess, regulate what these collectives are can and can't do?
Yeah, so it's wide open, bro. Like, so I mean, every school is different, and I think the thing with NIL too, and that people I think forget about, including myself at times, to be transparent, is that like there's like obviously NCAA legislation in regards to what you can and can't do, whatever. But there's also state laws that impact and
Yep.
dictate what you can and can't do.
Right.
And so you add that on top of the collective piece. And so like you think about, I saw the student, forget his name, I literally just saw it before I jumped on with you. But he committed to North Carolina. He's number one point guard, committed to North Carolina. He's going to go next year. Decommitted, and now he's going to South Carolina and enrolling early in 2 weeks.
Mm.
So I like text my friend like, yo, like one, they got a scholarship spot, which is surprising. But then two, like you decommit and then you re-enrolling early,
Right.
like you're early, like I'm not. And in another role, another capacity, I'll make some comments, but I'm saying like it's something to keep
Right.
note of. Just something to keep note of. You think
Yep.
about the USC situation in California, like with Caleb Williams and the crew going, it's like what?
Yep.
Just something to keep note of.
Yep. You got to pay attention to it and see what's going on and see how the NCAA reacts, how the states react, how
Exactly.
the different universities react. It's going to be very very interesting to see. But yeah, I think we got a question. What advice can you give What advice can you guys give to a student athlete looking for NIL deals? How can they get started and catch companies' attention for deals?
Yeah. So first say get MOGL. And so I see Amy's in the chat. If you want to drop MOGL down online, drop our we see our ad, get that MOGL. Definitely get MOGL. We can help you out that process. But again, to your point, so the thing I mentioned earlier, homie, like it's always like how can I get deals, not who am I?
Yep.
All right, it's always how can I get deals and not like how can I leverage this long term. And
Yep.
so I think they see the money. It's like, yo, I can get you some money. Like, do you want an NIL deal? You want money or you want a brand? Like, what's driving our motivation here? Because that'll help me and us be more efficient in how we connect and help each other during that process. But for me, I always again start with who you are, right? Identity. Start with storytelling. So what story do you want to share with the world, both on social and both on digital space, but also physical, and then what community, both with as support, advocacy, and obviously the brands you connect with, right? Every brand's not a good brand. It's not for you. Again, the money will come and go, but let's
Yep.
be honest and upfront about what our intention, our motivation is. And money itself, yeah, that can be a motivation. Let's be honest about that.
Yep.
It'll help us be much more efficient in regards to who we connect you with.
Yep. Because if you think
That's not a
about it,
popular opinion. Okay, go ahead.
if you think about it, you mentioned earlier, because if you just break it down into those two different things, do you want money or do you want a brand, right? Because in the
Yeah.
past, one of the biggest things were these athletes, they played 4 years and then if they didn't make it to the NBA, NFL, or whatever it may be, then they fell off. Like they didn't have anything to fall back on.
Mm-hmm.
So if you take a deal,
Mm-hmm.
these athletes can do the same thing, play all these years, and take deals their entire career, but they didn't build a brand. And so now, once those 4 to 5 years are over, now they have nothing to fall back on. But if instead they built those 4 to 5 years, they built relationships, they learned how to actually leverage their brand, then now they can forever. It goes back to you teach the I can give you a fish or I can teach you how to fish. Which one? Choose. So
exactly, dog. Exactly, dog. That's a good question, though.
Let's see.
And again, I think the best part about this is that the best part in them, I guess, in some ways, the most frustrating part is that there's literally no blueprint, right? And that's for better and for worse. And so I think when people's like, oh, well, why would you say this or why would you say that? Obviously, what I have to say is different than what someone else is. I'm glad that's the case. But I think it all comes down to like we're still learning, right? It's still now we're going into year 2. We're figuring out what works, what doesn't work. And so again, like I think everyone's entitled, and I'm glad everyone's entitled to having their own opinion and encourage everyone to to voice that. But every situation is different, and quite simply put, there are people who don't want to pursue NIL activity or monetizing their NIL in college, which is fine. There are people who want to, but either simply don't have the community and or the support and or the followers in some cases to be attracted by different brands or to be attracted by different, and that's fine. Like that's all part of it. I will help you however I best can, but I think let's just be honest in the process in regards to what's possible, what's not, and if it's not possible, how do we pivot and find something different?
Yep. No, I agree. Well, we're coming up on our time, so I definitely want to give you time at the end to just whatever you have going on, in the near future. Just tell people how to reach you. Tell people what you have going on, and let's close out.
Most definitely. So right now I'm putting our website in the chat, MOGL.online. Make sure y'all create an account. Let's get connected and get you connected with some money. While also building your brand in the process. Again, right now it's a great time, right? I think in any academic setting, or whether it's K-12 or higher education, you have the traditional school year. The summer's a time where you kind of rest, recharge, or really rebuild. Right now we are rebuilding and have some exciting news to drop here in the next few weeks. So again, make sure you follow us on Instagram, Twitter as well, the MOGL app, but also on LinkedIn. Let's have fun, yo. Let's ride.
Yep.
This is fun. It's not stressful. This is fun, right? We're gonna make sure you're compliant, make sure you get paid, make sure you build a brand, but most importantly, make a difference and continue walking in your evolving career journey and purpose journey. So I want to say thank you for the opportunity to even show up, be with you today, because it's a great conversation and not just got me thinking in ways that I had not thought about before, which I appreciate. But also it's like, yo, we locked in now.
Yeah.
Let's get it.
Let's
get it. Let's ride, bro.
Let's
ride.
This is the opportunity to be creative, and like I said, Dream Big Sports. We brought this Powerhouse conversation to have these dope conversations and make sure that we're educating people and we're helping people build their brands and make sure that they're able to capitalize on it. So I appreciate you coming on. Thank you, and like I said, we locked in, and we'll talk later.
All right, get MOGL.
All right.